Hello, everyone. Welcome to the NAE 4HA Virtual Professional Development Webinar Series. My name is Jeffrey Burke, and I serve as the NAE 4HA Working Group Chair for Virtual Professional Development. We appreciate you joining us this month as we learn more about creating a culture of appreciation. Now, I wear double hats this month. I'm serving as a host and actually have the opportunity to present. Again, I'm Jeffrey Burke, and here in Georgia, I serve as a public service professional in the State 4-H headquarters, where my role is to provide leadership for our statewide events and programs.
And hi, I'm happy to be joining Jeffrey today. My name is Keri Hobbs. I serve as Extension Specialist with Georgia 4-H and UGA Extension. I wear the hat of volunteer development with Georgia 4-H, where I have the opportunity to celebrate accomplishments, particularly with volunteer appreciation, but also am happy to work with Jeffrey with staff appreciation as well.
So today's session, we will be using Dr. Gary Chapman and Dr. Paul White's book, The 5 Languages of Appreciation in the Workplace, to highlight various ways leadership and nonprofit organizations can express their appreciation to their employees, their colleagues, and their clients. We want to be upfront in the beginning that these practices are not our own, and we do encourage you to buy this book to learn more about the appreciation languages directly from the authors. But Keri and I do fully support the work of Dr. Chapman and Dr. White, which is why we thought highlighting their work in our session today would be valuable to the NAE 4HA community. So the book explains that although a leader may feel like they're showing appreciation, appreciation can come in many forms and must be communicated in a way that is meaningful to the individual. So through Dr. Chapman and Dr. White's work, participants today will expect to learn how to express genuine appreciation to coworkers and staff, even on a tight budget, increase loyalty with employees and volunteers in your organization, reduce cynicism and create a more positive work environment, improve your ability to show appreciation for difficult colleagues, individualize your expression of appreciation by speaking the right language, and convey the language of physical touch in appropriate ways.
So in Georgia, we've had the opportunity to celebrate National Volunteer Appreciation Week and also celebrate volunteer accomplishments, recognition, and even appreciation. However, we've long known that appreciation and recognition must be constant. Recognizing and appreciating just once a year is simply not enough. And this isn't only true for our volunteers, but it's also true for our colleagues. So first, let's just define what appreciation is, as well as recognition, and talk about the differences and similarities between the two. According to Merriam-Webster, recognition is defined as acknowledgement. It's special recognition or attention, calling attention to some worthy performance. It typically is about performance and about an accomplishment. An example you'll see in the photo here that Wilcox County 4-H graduated 24 youth from the 3-time national award-winning MyPI, which is My Preparedness Initiative. It was co-led by certified instructors Sarah Surser, Wilcox 4-H program assistant, and Angela Bloodsworth, Wilcox County 4-H volunteer. This team graduated the largest MyPI Georgia class to date. So as you can see, that post, which was found on social media, is a good recognition for that 4-H club of Wilcox 4-H for their performance. They graduated the largest MyPI Georgia class to date. It was good for the organization to recognize this accomplishment. It was also good for that club to see that accomplishment. This post was about their performance. Also, you'll see in the photos that the youth completed a certification. So we acknowledged their great work through social media. This hopefully acknowledged to the individuals that we saw what they did. We saw the great work that they were doing, And oftentimes it's natural that this recognition is initiated from the top down. So think about the giving of a plaque or a certificate in an awards ceremony. That is what we would think of when we think of recognition. So next, though, let's compare that to what appreciation looks like. Appreciation, on the other hand, is what came in the comments of this post on social media. In the comments, we found what a fun and exciting class we had. Thank you so much, Angela Bloodworth, for your hard work as well. We couldn't have done it without you. That was a feeling of, or an expression of admiration, approval, or gratitude, which is Merriam-Webster's definition of appreciation. It incorporates both the performance and personal values. So we treasured the work of Angela, the hard work that she contributed. We needed her as a member of that team. And perhaps the best part about appreciation is not just that it is mutually beneficial for both the organization and the person, but it can be offered in any direction. So it can be offered from colleague to colleague, it can be offered from top down, or it can even be driven from the bottom up as well. And so that's really where we can potentially make an impact. Okay, so pop quiz. Can you tell the difference between the two? Which is recognition and which is appreciation? In Exhibit A, you'll find that Worth County National 4-H Champion Shotgun Team was honored during a recent school assembly. Worth County High School students assembled in the gymnatorium on Thursday, November the 29th, to honor their national champions. State Representative Ed Reinders and State Senator Gerd Kirk presented and read the Georgia legislative resolution honoring their achievement during the ceremony. Congratulations to the team, and the team members were then noted. Compared to B, which is recognition and which is appreciation. Michael Reynolds serves in two critical volunteer roles for Georgia 4-H. For one, he is the senior, Michael Reeves serves in two critical volunteer roles for Georgia 4-H. For one, he's the senior member of the statewide Georgia 4-H Advisory Committee with more than 12 years of dedicated service in this role. He also serves as a ranking member on our advisory facilities subcommittee, providing helpful guidance and engineering expertise related to construction and site design for 4-H centers. Fast forward to the final comments. Mandy B. Marable, State 4-H faculty, states that Michael Reeves is a tremendous asset to our statewide 4-H program. He has given selflessly to 16 State 4-H board members, has positively influenced the lives of those youth leaders, and made a significant impact on the total 4-H program. Volunteers like Michael are valued and considered an integral piece of the work we do. He truly makes the best better. So which do you think is appreciation and which is recognition? Well, if you guessed that B is appreciation and A is recognition, then you are absolutely correct. B did truly get to the heart of what we appreciate from Michael, whereas A was recognition for the hard work paid off by a team, noting that they had gained the status of National 4-H Shotgun Team. Certainly, both are important publications, but whenever we're truly trying to thank an individual, appreciation is what matters in the workplace. So let's take a moment for you to have a personal assessment. If you'll get out a pen and paper just to jot down a few notes, and feel free to press pause if you need to on the webinar, but just a little personal reflection. Throughout the book of Gary Chapman and Paul White, it encourages us to stop after each chapter and consider some personal assessments. And a few notes they really want us to internalize is how do we feel? And so how appreciated do you feel by your supervisor? So just take a moment to consider how appreciated you feel by your supervisor, And also, how appreciated do you feel in your workplace? What is the general temperature of the culture there? And then think about why. Can you think about why you feel this way? Or what did they do that makes you feel appreciated? And maybe even what do they do at times that maybe makes you feel not appreciated? Okay, so after you've taken a moment or two to add some personal assessments, keep that in mind as we continue through this webinar, and also even afterwards, thinking of how you could or how you feel appreciation, and maybe even think about how you could verbalize that to your coworkers. So let's take a look at why this all matters. The reason why it matters is because employees leave us, right? A 4-year study that was noted in the book by Chapman and Paul notes that a leading U.S. exit interview firm noted that 12% of employees reported leaving for more money, while 88% of employees state they leave for other reasons. The reasons most often cited by departing employees were more psychological in nature, including not feeling trusted or valued. When staff members feel their contributions are not appreciated and they don't have a sense of being valued by their employer or supervisor, they simply look for employment elsewhere. So why do we care about that? What does it make a difference to us? And the reason why is because working with dissatisfied colleagues can not only affect the productivity of our work environments, it is a great expense for the organization to find new employees, but it can also result in more work for you. According to Chapman and White, managers consistently report that the process of searching for, hiring, and training new employees is one of the most disliked tasks they have. In the midst of doing their own work and leading their teams, taking the time and energy to find new team members feels like an interruption. And we all know that extension employees, the last thing they need is another interruption. Employees have shared that work satisfaction includes complexity in their work, in addition to, of course, paychecks and work conditions, but also the use of their skills and talents, perception that their work is valued, interpersonal relationships, coworker satisfaction, as well as their workload and recognition. So certainly it is important to us. In considering Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he notes that it does us no good to focus on the things that we can't control. We can spend time complaining and trying to progress our missions by complaining, but that's going to simply get us nowhere. If we focus on what we can control and what we can improve, then we can make a difference. So being proactive will help us make a mark on our organizations and change the trajectory. One way we can be proactive is by expressing appreciation within the workplace. The benefits of appreciation within the workplace are very clear. We'll have less turnover, and maybe that means less of the work that employees don't desire. Also, increased attendance and productivity of employees, as well as more positive working environments, notes Chapman and White in their book. Appreciation and recognition are simply not new topics in the workplace. We didn't just learn that encouraging people to succeed will yield a more productive work environment. In fact, according to Chapman and White, organizational leaders who utilize effective principles for communicating appreciation and encouragement receive multifold returns for their businesses on the investment made. However, what we may not know is that people receive encouragement and appreciation in different ways. And this is where the book of the 5 languages of appreciation and in the workplace can certainly help us to consider how we can be better colleagues.
That's right. So, as mentioned before, our session today is grounded in the work of Dr. Chapman and Dr. White in their book, The Five Languages of Appreciation in the Workplace. And those five languages are words of affirmation, tangible gifts, quality time, physical touch, and acts of service. Now, these languages might sound very familiar, and you might have heard them talk about before because they're very popular in Dr. Chapman's book, The Five Love Languages. But through their focus groups and research, they've related the five love languages to very applicable ways that you can demonstrate appreciation in the workplace. Now, what's important to know is that the five languages of appreciation is that everyone is different. What makes us feel appreciated may have the opposite effect on another person. And to complicate those matters even further, there's no cookie cutter approach to appreciation, meaning that for me, the way that I demonstrate my appreciation to you and the way that I receive appreciation might not be the same. While in some way or the other we recognize all forms of appreciation in all five languages, typically there are a few that stand out the most to us. For example, as an employee and a colleague, what makes me feel valued and affirms my work is words of affirmation. For me, I prefer them written. I don't necessarily need it in front of a large group, but just to affirm that you know that I'm doing hard work and that I'm giving that effort means a lot to me. Similarly, what I would say is, words of affirmation is my primary language of receiving appreciation. But similarly, I also enjoy and appreciate quality time. Sometimes when there's a lot going on in our office and people realize that I'm starting to get wound up over things, offering to take me to lunch and spend time with me is something that I value. My secondary language, the language that I also identify with in addition to my first language, is quality time. However, your blind spot is the language that you generally do not feel appreciated by. And if you continuously attempt to communicate to someone in this language, you might even offend them. For me, after a long event, receiving a Starbucks gift card from a colleague or from a supervisor is a nice gesture. And although I realize that it's very nice of them, that gift is not something that I need in order to feel appreciated. As I mentioned, I feel much more valued if I was given a handwritten note. So I do need those words of affirmation in order to feel successful and happy in my career. And my blind spot is tangible gifts. So identifying these languages for yourself and for your colleagues is an important part of creating a culture of appreciation in your workplace.
So, Jeffrey, I love that you brought up your primary language of words of affirmation. It's important as a colleague that I understand what words of affirmation are. And words of affirmation are going to include praises for accomplishment. So, like recognition, they do offer the notes of maybe how many individuals attended a trip or how many individuals might have been impacted, or really a quantitative about an experience. But they're also going to bring in qualitative data. They're going to praise the person not just for their performance, but they're specifically going to get to the heart of really what are the personality and character traits that made that a success. So looking at the example shared previously of our volunteer, Michael Reeves, you'll note that we used a quote to build in some words of affirmation, where Mandy V. Marable, who serves as a state 4-H faculty here in Georgia, stated that Reeves is a tremendous asset to our program. He gives selflessly. He has positively influenced the lives of youth leaders. He has made a significant impact. He is valued and considered an integral piece of the work we do. And he truly makes the best better. So that is not just noting the number of people that he has impacted, but truly getting to the heart of what he does that matters and affirming him through words for his character. And this actually came out about Reeves in a volunteer newsletter, but oftentimes we'll use social media for things like this as well. Words of affirmation can take on many forms. They can be personal notes, so one-on-one conversation, perhaps. I could go to Jeffrey after an event, since he's the event coordinator, and say, hey, Jeffrey, you really did a great job this year with that event. I truly appreciated how much attention you gave to detail, how coordinated all the efforts were, and just how appreciated all the volunteers felt because of the heartfelt directions that you had in place, but also the heartfelt thanks that you offered at the event. That would be a personal one-on-one that I could tell him directly through a conversation, or even just writing that in a note as well could be pleasing to him. Words of affirmation could be given in praise in front of others. So maybe I said those exact same things unplanned at a staff meeting, perhaps, and others are going to receive that even better if they hear not just the words of appreciation, but they also hear that other people are hearing those words as well. I mentioned that thank you note, so that written affirmation. Here in our building of Hoke Smith Annex, we have dry erase boards that are posted on all of our doors. And one thing that we can do for written affirmation is simply write some kudos on a board for a job well done, and what personal trait really made that a success, following an event or following some really great accomplishment that they had. Sometimes we might even put this written affirmation, though, just because they survived a difficult day at work. It might be needed then as well. Another form, though, of these words of affirmation could be a more public affirmation. So in that case, we could consider the awards that we give at larger events, such as Fall Forum every year, which is our December event. We have a volunteer dinner, and at the volunteer dinner, we recognize volunteers for Volunteer of the Year and Outstanding Lifetime Volunteer, which then fall into the 4-H Salute to Excellence pool. But that is where we identify not just our finalists in Georgia, but also our state winner. And through those presentations where we recognize those individuals, we're also pouring in those words of affirmation by bringing in quotes from kids, as well as quotes from other volunteers and leaders that they've worked with within their communities. And that's one way that we can show public affirmation, and those who receive public affirmation can truly feel appreciated in that way.
That's right. And like Keri said, it's important to remember that this isn't cookie cutter. So even though that these are all different forms of ways to give words of affirmation, not everyone that has words of affirmation as their primary language would enjoy each one of these things. I think we can all think of people who might enjoy that written note and know privately that you appreciate them, but might truly be embarrassed to be called on stage for something that they have done. So again, just knowing someone personally and knowing what form of appreciation truly would resonate with them.
So let's take a look at your actions of drawing the connections with words of affirmation. So consider on that notepad that you had and that pen, or with the pen, when is the last time you verbally affirmed a coworker? Can you think of who the coworker was? And what was their response to those words of affirmation? And as Jeffrey noted, even if the response wasn't that they seemed that they felt appreciated, it may not be that their language isn't words of affirmation. It could just mean that you were using the wrong dialect of the words of affirmation. Also consider, have you received verbal affirmation within the last week? So has someone offered you that affirmation? And if so, what did they say? Was it in front of a group? Was it one-on-one? Did it come in the form of a thank you note? Was it in a public forum? How did that make you feel? And then finally, how important is it to you to receive words of affirmation from your coworkers? Is that even important to you? Or is it something that truly makes you thrive from day to day and helps you feel more motivated as an employee? So these are all ways that you can consider words of affirmation, which is one of the languages of appreciation in the workplace in Chapman and White's book.
That's right, but who doesn't love getting a good gift? The second language that we're going to talk about is tangible gifts. So giving the right gift to someone whose appreciation language is tangible gifts can go a long way in demonstrating your appreciation to them. Giving a gift to someone whose primary language is not tangible gifts will not have much effect. And giving the wrong gift can actually offend someone. And yes, when we talk about tangible gifts, these are generally personal gifts from one person to another. So although some of us might already be thinking, show me the money, we're not talking about raises or bonuses. True gifts from one individual to the other to say thank you for the work that you're doing. So examples of tangible gifts might include a gift certificate to a nice meal out or tickets to a sporting event that they might enjoy. And if you're at a work conference, consider bringing home some coworkers or employees a small token from your trip that lets them know that you were thinking about them while you were away. Perhaps you're worried about the perception of giving gifts to just certain individuals in your office. I know that we can probably all think that someone will say, well, they got a gift, but I didn't. So perhaps think about things that you can do in an office environment that will benefit everyone, but will truly resonate with those people whose language of appreciation is that tangible gift. So something as easy as updating the office Keurig machine to the newest model, or bringing in some sweet treats or something to say thank you. Now, if you're a person who enjoys giving gifts, the art of giving a gift can be complicated. Am I right? There are two things that you need to consider when giving a gift of appreciation, and the authors call this the who and the what. So first, you need to give gifts to those that actually appreciate them. We've hit this a few times already, but not everyone feels valued by the same thing, and not everyone feels the value of a gift. So see in your office who is most often the gift giver among your colleagues, because the chances are they would also appreciate some gifts in return. Second, you need to give a gift that a person will actually value. For example, giving me a pair of tickets to the ballet would have no impact on my feeling of appreciation. I probably wouldn't even use them. But if you give me a gift card for a massage, oh yeah, I'm going to book it today. So you have to think, what does this person like? What are they interested in? And what might make them feel exceptional? But the art of expressing appreciation through gift giving can be tricky. You have to know who enjoys receiving gifts, and then what an appropriate gift is to give them. So think about it. You might consider giving a quick survey, maybe when a new person joins your office, just to know what some of their interests are. So consider asking them questions like, what are some of your favorite musical artists? What is your favorite magazine? What are some of your favorite leisure activities? What's your favorite sports team? Which is your favorite restaurant? What events do you enjoy attending? In the book, someone from the test group responds that receiving tickets to a local sporting event is something that they enjoy. And I quote, that it shows me that the team leader has taken the time and interest to find out what about me personally and what I like. I played baseball in college and still love going to the games. Since he took the initiative and effort to get me the tickets. So it shows me that I'm doing what it takes to encourage me and reward me, that it shows that it's worth it to them. So just the act of giving a gift, finding out what someone likes, going through the process of going and getting that gift and giving it to them. For someone whose primary language is tangible gift, it speaks volumes to them. But I know what you're thinking, because I've thought it too. What if we don't have the resources to be able to give gifts like this? Have you ever thought of time as a gift? It's one of the most important things that we'll ever have or ever be able to give. So if someone worked a long weekend, communicate to them that you don't expect them to be in the office on Monday. I'm sure that they would greatly appreciate it. Just the act of having them to ask for the time off, does not give you the opportunity to be able to offer it to them. Have you ever thought about flexing someone's work schedule that works for you? Consider it where possible. So if you have someone that would rather work 7 a.m. to 4 instead of a regular 8 to 5, where it's possible, give them that opportunity. If you have someone that would rather work, an extra 30 minutes on Monday through Thursday so they can leave at 3 o'clock on Friday, why not? Especially if you have millennials that work for you, which value time, this is one of the most important gifts that you can give them, and it doesn't cost you anything. And gifts don't have to be expensive. They generally just need to be thoughtful. So for example, we have someone in our office whose language of appreciation is tangible gifts. And I know what her favorite donut is at our local donut shop. So occasionally on the way to work, I stop by, pick up a couple of her favorite donuts, which just so happen to be mine as well, and a couple cups of coffee. And unexpectedly, we just have a few minutes at the start of our day for me to show her that I appreciate what she does. And it also plays into what I think is her second form of appreciation, which is quality time. So let's take a moment to draw some connections. How important are tangible gifts to you? What kind of gifts do you appreciate the most? And what is the most memorable gift you've ever received, and why? What are gifts that you've received from your supervisor or colleagues in the past year? How did receiving that gift make you feel? And what gifts have you given to your colleagues over the past year? What were their reactions to receiving that gift? Take just a moment to ponder on these questions. Giving gifts in the workplace is something that can be complicated, but it all comes through personal connections and a personal understanding of your colleagues.
It's now looking at another of these effective languages of appreciation in the workplace. It includes quality time. And for me, quality time comes quite naturally because it is one that I both receive and give. And oftentimes, because of this, people may be at my door looking for that quality time, it seems. But it's giving people your focused attention. That quality time is going to really focus on the colleague is going to focus more on listening to allow that person who is receiving the appreciation to have the opportunity to have that empathetic dialogue, to share their thoughts, and their feelings. Is creating, as the book describes, a safe place to share not only accomplishments but also frustrations with the process, as well as suggestions for how that could be improved in the future. As coworkers, it's important that we're listening to the accomplishments and listening to the frustrations and the suggestions, even if we don't even agree with the suggestions that are being made. Just allowing that person the time to talk about and to share their thoughts helps them to feel appreciated in the workplace. So a few tips that you might consider with quality time is whenever that person does come to your door and need to talk, they need that safe space. Remember to maintain eye contact. Show them that you're listening. You're ready for them to share how their day is going or what their recent accomplishments are. Also, take the time to focus. And I know time is a hot commodity with extension, but carving out small amounts of time, maybe it's right before work or during lunch. Jeffrey describes a great example at the start of the day, bringing not just that tangible gift, but offering a little bit of quality time to focus in on that individual. Resist multitasking. So don't try to do other things while you're listening. Don't try to respond to emails while the person is talking to you. All of that symbolizes to them is that you're not receiving their comments and their thoughts, and it's not a feeling of appreciation that they're going to gain from that. During that quality time, you want to listen for feelings as well as thoughts, just so that you can further affirm the feelings that they've expressed. Again, even if you're disagreeing with the conclusions, you can certainly say, I do understand that you're feeling, and offering those feelings that they're sharing. Observe their body language, because that can tell you a lot about the place that they're at in sharing with you. And also resist interruptions. So even if you have thoughts that you feel like you absolutely need to share back, sometimes that person really does just need you to listen to their concerns. But oftentimes they may even be looking for feedback though as well.
That's right. I'm usually the one at Keri's door, ready for the quality time, and I appreciate it always.
Oh, you're so kind. My door stays open except for times like right now when I'm recording. But people in the office do know that I'm happy to listen as time allows. But they also know that I will shut my door when I do absolutely have to focus and get a project rolled out. And there certainly is a mutual respect for that as well. But finding those times, as Jeffrey noted, even going to lunch to offer that quality time. And maybe when that colleague comes to you and you feel like your morning is full or your afternoon is full, just scheduling a time with them where you can offer that quality time will go far in building your relationships. So let's take a look at drawing the connections for you. How important is quality time to you with your working relationships? You can jot that down on your paper. Consider it with the other languages we've discussed so far as well. Do you value quality time more or less than words of affirmation, or more or less than those tangible gifts? Also consider, when was the last quality conversation you had with a colleague, and how did that conversation make you feel? And then finally, do you prefer quality time to be one-on-one or with small groups? And certainly quality time could take on the face of either. Some really confide in or would prefer to confide one-on-one, where others really do need that group to process things. You can just take a moment or two to jot down your answers for that. And as a reminder, I know that quality time does take time, but please do find ways within your workplace that you can offer colleagues a chance to have that safe space with you.
The next language is physical touch. So you're probably having a hard time wrapping your head around the idea of physical touch. as a way to demonstrate your appreciation to others in the workplace. And rightfully so, we share those same feelings. So, in a professional sense, there are a limited number of scenarios when physical touch is appropriate in the workplace. Rightfully so, in this sample population that was tested to write this book, no one identified physical touch as their primary language of appreciation in the workplace. However, nonetheless, there are ways that you can use physical touch appropriately in the workplace. So do the following statements resonate with you? I feel important when someone gives me a firm handshake as a meaning of communicating job well done. I feel appreciated when someone gives me a high five when I've done a good job. A simple pat on the back by a supportive friend inspires me to persevere through a difficult task. I know that I'm appreciated when a coworker stands by me, puts their hand on my shoulder, and gives me a verbal compliment. Or when a tragedy occurs, I appreciate a hug from a coworker. If any of these statements above are things that you identify with, perhaps physical touch is one of the ways that you feel appreciated in the workplace. Physical touch is a normal part of life. Chapman and White note that touch is a fundamental part of human nature. The book reads, in the area of child development, numerous research projects have come to the same conclusion. Babies who are held, hugged, and touched tenderly develop a healthier emotional life than those who are left for long periods of time without physical contact. Consider your reaction to the people around you in the time of a crisis. You might describe the feeling of just needing to hug someone to seek comfort through that difficult time. And if you grew up especially in a touchy-feely family, physical touch might just come naturally for you. However, there's a lot of hesitation about physical touch in the workplace because of the danger that your touch may be considered sexually inappropriate. Remember, everyone's language in the way that they feel appreciated differs, and where you saw it one time to demonstrate appreciation could now be considered sexual harassment to those who are receiving it. An individual's perception of what is appropriate and inappropriate may differ from person to person. So again, realizing who are the touchers, as we described them, and how are you conveying those feelings to them. As we were preparing and reading different examples of physical touch in the workplace, something that Keri and I read was someone said, 2 pats, no circular motion. That's what made them feel okay, that physical touch was appropriate in the workplace. Pat me on the shoulder, but don't have a circular motion. It's different from person to person. So just know what those barriers are. And although we might be hesitant to physical touch in the workplace, there are still some ways that we can convey this by giving a firm handshake, giving a high five, a fist bump, or a pat on the back like we just described. At the bottom line, I think that physical touch in the workplace is a form of appreciation that comes through having personal relationships. When I think about the people in our office, I wouldn't feel comfortable giving everyone a hug. And then there's others that I wouldn't even think twice about it just because we have that personal relationship. So if physical touch is a way that you feel appropriate to demonstrate your appreciation, ask, can I give you a hug? And although that might sound uncomfortable or weird, it is much more appropriate and appreciated to the receiver. Not only does it seek consent, but also makes the receiver feel good that you've considered them prior to rushing to their comfort. And even now, as I think about hugging in the workplace and those people that I give hugs to regularly, I think I still say, can I give you a hug, without even realizing it, just because I know that it's appropriate. I know that it prepares them, for that touch, or they could say, not in the mood, more than just opening up my arms and expecting that hug in return. So let's make some personal connections. Are there types of touch in the workplace that make you feel valued? And if there are, what are they? Are they that handshake? Are they the fist bump? Or is it someone giving you a pat on the back? Are there types of touches in the workplace that make you feel uncomfortable? Is that rub on the shoulder in a circular motion the thing that makes you feel uncomfortable about physical touch? Who in your office would you consider the touchers? Who likes to go and hug people in your office? We all have people in our office that identify with physical touch. So who are they? And think about the last week. What types of physical touch have you given to others in the workplace? And how was that received? Did you seek permission ahead of time? Did you rush up to them to give them a hug unexpectedly? What was their reaction to that? Or perhaps maybe you haven't given any form of physical touch to someone in the workplace because you don't generally feel comfortable with it. Regardless, those that do identify with physical touch as a primary language really appreciate that physical touch. So finding ways that are work appropriate to demonstrate that will go miles for these people.
Okay, so next, let's take a look at acts of service. Acts of service will complete the fifth language as noted in the book. And for these people who receive acts of service primarily, they receive your actions louder than the words that you could say. The things that you do for them are going to certainly make their day much brighter than anything you could possibly think of saying. Acting, or you can exhibit acts of service by acting in service. These individuals think that your actions equate to care. They live by the mantra, don't tell me you care, but show me that you care. And they also love hearing things like, is there anything I can do to help? And so in our workplace, it is important to these individuals that from time to time you do offer that that support, that you can help them accomplish a task that they have at hand. Also, acts of service could be accomplished just whenever you see somebody struggling with something. So an example from this picture here was a couple of years ago at a volunteer conference. We had these blender smoothie bikes, and I was clearly struggling with getting all the pieces compiled together and on the bike, and my trusted colleague Natalie Bach was quick to come to my aid and to my support to make sure that these bikes were functioning for the class. For the volunteers in that particular class, that act of service meant a lot to them. A few tips that I would share with act of service is to make sure that your own responsibilities are covered before volunteering to help others. The book shares basically the kindergarten student who helps other kindergarten students complete their homework before they themselves completed their own homework. So certainly you do have to make sure you're securing your own job, but also maybe finding those opportunities outside of that to support your colleagues as well. Also, the book notes that you should ask before you help. Don't just assume that someone wants your help or assumes that you know how to do what they need done. Instead, ask if you can support them, and they'll openly tell you yes or no, maybe it's too complicated for you to jump in and help. It's important that you serve voluntarily, that no one is telling you to come and serve with this individual, because then it's work, right? And then it does not look like it's appreciation, and it can actually be begrudged if it is not voluntary and you don't have the correct attitude. So check your attitude before you begin, because certainly if you have a negative attitude while you're completing that act of service, it can be completely detrimental to that act that you're hoping to affirm through that act, appreciation for that individual. Instead, it can reverse and sabotage that relationship. If you're going to help, make sure that you ask them how they want it accomplished, because you do need to to help them the way they want to be helped. So make sure you're doing it their way, and because it is their project or their task, and you need to seek their vision to see how you can best support them. And finally, make sure you complete what you start. So a great example of that is recently I got a new desk in my, or a new to me desk in my office, and my furniture needed to be shuffled around a bit. And this was a wonderful act of service that colleagues showed up at my door and supported me in moving the desks around in my office. But what could have been a complete nightmare to me is if we got one desk in the middle of the floor and everyone had abandoned me. that would have not been so much fun. And instead, it would have resulted in a negative experience. While since the project was completed, it was quite the opposite. It was a tremendous act of service by my colleagues, and certainly I'm looking at how I can return future acts of service as well. Not that I'm walking down the hallway looking for who needs to get moved, but perhaps if someone has boxes that need to go down, we are on the 3rd floor of our building. If someone has boxes that need to go down to their car, certainly I could be an extra set of hands to support them. Or at a recent event where we had a new colleague begin, Jeffrey and I both went with that individual to assist in service. We volunteered to go with that individual through their first time in hosting that contest, just so we could be there for support. And that was a way that we showed acts of service to a colleague. Unknowingly, actually, whether that's a primary language of that individual, but I guess it was trial and error at the time, Jeffrey, right? I think we had a lovely experience with that individual, and the act was certainly well received. So let's take a look at your work and acts of service that you may be completing, how you're drawing that connection. The book leads us to consider how important it is for us and how important these acts of service are to us. So I want you to consider these 3 questions that are up on the screen now and jotting down the answers on your page. The first one being, how important to you are acts of service from your coworkers? Also, are there types, also identify an act of service that someone has done for you, and how did it make you feel? Are there some types of service that may make you feel better than others? So Jeffrey noted someone giving him a service in the form of a gift, that it also offered the opportunity for a potential massage, an example. And third, identify an act of service that you have done for a coworker, and how did it make you feel to complete that act of service? You might also consider how it was received by that individual. So now on your sheet of paper, you have thoroughly assessed the 5 languages of appreciation in the workplace. You've considered whether you've used those languages recently with others, and you've also considered how well you received those languages from others. You might take a look at your paper to see if there are any places that really pop for you of making you feel the best. So when you received that gift, an example, you really felt the most appreciated. Or whenever that person came and helped you move your desk or carry boxes down the hallway, you felt the most appreciated then. But see if there are any tendencies that seem to make you feel the best on your page.
That's right. So as a reminder, the 5 languages are words of affirmation, tangible gifts, quality time, physical touch, and acts of service. And as Keri mentioned, as you completed those questions at the end of each section, you probably find yourself identifying with some of those. That might be your primary language, your secondary language, and then your blind spot, the thing that you really don't, wouldn't care to be appreciated in that way. The word of caution that we get from the authors is beware of the blind spot. As people, we tend to speak our own language, meaning that however we feel the most appreciated is how we're going to share that appreciation with others. And we generally tend to overlook the thing that doesn't mean a lot to us. So while you're expressing appreciation for someone, if it doesn't connect to them in the way that they like to receive appreciation, the act is dead. So understanding that everyone is different, and that's not a bad thing. And part of being a good manager and a good colleague is understanding these differences. If you don't take time to understand what your colleagues, what it takes for them to feel special, then you'll spend a lot of wasted time trying to make them feel appreciated in a way that doesn't resonate with them. The book shares a story about, quote, Stacy Sunshine, a manager who spends a lot of her time verbally affirming her employees and telling them about what a great job that they're doing. But what some of them really need is acts of service. But the feedback that came out was that while she's telling them they're doing a great job, she done no action to support her role as a manager. So she doesn't understand why her employees feel so unsupported. She's telling them every day how good of a great job they're doing, but she's not putting any action. These are the people that really would feel that their actions speak louder than words. So Stacy's trying to communicate in the language that she identifies with, that she loves being told that she's doing a good job, and that's what she needs to feel valued and feel affirmed. That's not what the people that work for her need. They wouldn't mind her offering to help complete a project or to stay late to help them when they have a lot going on. So again, it's just knowing what people need and communicating that in the way that resonates with them. And in building a culture of appreciation, it does take a lot of effort on the giver to realize what those languages are and who tends to fall in what categories. I don't think that a culture of appreciation just happens with no effort that goes into it. It does take a lot of self-awareness. And as you plan or would like to create a successful culture of appreciation in your workplace, you do have to be fluent in speaking each one of the language that we talked about today. So that leads us to how to identify your coworkers' language, because unless they have also read the book, they're not going to be able to speak, the terms that you're aware of because you've attended this webinar or read the book by Dr. Chapman and Dr. White. So identifying your coworkers' language can be a little difficult at first, but as you start to learn more about these practices, their languages will slowly start to emerge and they'll become clear to you. So first, observe their behavior. As we just learned, we tend to speak our own language, meaning we do for others what we are seeking in return. So who in your office is the handshaker? Who is the person that's scheduling lunches with people? Who randomly gives you a gift for no reason? It's likely that these people would appreciate having those things done in return. But notice I use the words may and likely. According to Dr. Chapman and Dr. White, about 75% of the population like to receive appreciation in the language that they speak, while 25% prefer to receive appreciation in a different way that they speak. So I identify here with the 25%. I recognize about myself that words of affirmation are the way that I feel appreciated, but it's not necessarily the language that comes easily for me to share my appreciation with others. I personally struggle giving words of affirmation to others. However, tangible gifts does come easy for me. And when it comes to sharing my appreciation, that's generally the way that I tend to share my appreciation. However, tangible gifts is not the way that I receive appreciation. People are complex, and as we've noted, there's no cookie cutter approach to this. It all comes through personal relationships. Second, observe what your colleagues request of others. This, to me, is the clearest sign of their language of appreciation. They're literally asking for appreciation. Are they asking for help on a project? They seek acts of service. Are they asking for your opinion on the design of something or feedback on their work? They seek words of affirmation. If they share with you how much they love a particular place or a particular item, they're indicating that they like things. They might appreciate a tangible gift. Listen to what your colleagues are saying and start applying those in the ways that you appreciate them. And lastly, listen to their complaints. Now, I personally don't love the word complain, although I too tend to do it sometimes. But at the core of it, a complaint is generally someone sharing what they're unhappy about or what has hurt them the most. And according to the book, the opposite of hurt is appreciation. So if someone's complaining that the donuts that someone brought to the office seem very impersonal as a way of showing appreciation, chances are they'd appreciate something that's a little more tailored to them and their personal interests. They might not appreciate the blanket, thanks for all you do. They would really appreciate, thank you for your hard work in putting these packets together, or thank you for always answering the phone with such a pleasant attitude. Something a little more tailored would mean something to them. They're complaining that no one ever offers to help them when they're busy. They need acts of service. And none of this, thinking about it, is super difficult, but it does require a lot on you to constantly observe these behaviors in your environment and constantly observe the people around you to be able to identify their language. As we said in the beginning, they might not have read the book, but as you learn more about them and intentionally observe the people around you, these things tend to emerge just naturally.
So let's put this to work for you in your offices. Some things that you could consider doing that may boost your relationships with employees, colleagues, certainly volunteers alike, are to just simply tell someone, I really appreciate how you, and then insert some personal characteristic or trait that could be meaningful for them and for you. Certainly make it heartfelt and something that you appreciate about them. Another thing that you could do is just simply ask a colleague, is there anything I can do to help you? Is there anything I can help you with? And if so, maybe asking them how they would like you to complete that task, or how they how you could help them with that. You could also ask a coworker just simply, how's your week going? And listen for that response. Give someone who's doing a great job a fist bump or a high five and see how they respond. And then finally, surprise someone with a cup of coffee or your favorite treat. At the end of the day, what's important is taking interest in your colleagues. And with the more interest that you can show, you will quickly identify which of these 5 gave you the best response with a coworker and which maybe was less meaningful. And in that case, you can strike that one from the list for that person. If they do not appreciate your help with things, well, you don't actually have to spend the time asking them if they need any help with things. Instead, maybe they just need you to tell them how great they are doing with their work, or they need you to show up with that Starbucks gift card with some time on your hands. But truly just think about how you can invest in those relationships in your office, how you can put these languages to work for you to further strengthen not just your relationships in the office, but strengthen your colleagues, strengthen your total organization for meeting the needs of your public land-grant university.
So as we said in the beginning, we are just bringing to light the great work that others have done. So our references today are on the screen, and we strongly encourage you to purchase Dr. Chapman and Dr. White's book, The 5 Languages of Appreciation in the Workplace. I just checked before this webinar. They released a new 2019 version of the book with some up-to-date statistics, and it's running about $15. and to think about $15 in the sense of increasing appreciation in your workplace, which can in turn have employees and colleagues work harder and feel more valued, is a very easy investment to make. So again, we support the work of Dr. Chapman and Dr. White and encourage you to purchase the book. We also had several things throughout the presentation that you'll see referenced there. The work of Stephen Covey and some things that we use here locally in Georgia.
And one more plug about buying that book, another great reason to spend a few dollars to buy your own personal copy is because the books have a complimentary code for the MBA inventory access, which will actually help you determine a little bit more about discovering your primary appreciation language and understanding how you can better appreciate others. So further strengthening that motivating by appreciation model just by simply purchasing the book and gaining that code. Otherwise, you can go to a webpage, www.mbainventory.com, to find out more information about taking that inventory on your own.
That's right. The more people you can get involved talking about appreciation in the workplace, the better. I know that Keri and I have shared some ideas just between us of ways that we can maybe bring the 5 languages of appreciation in the workplace to our office in Athens. We've bounced around the idea of a book club or, just things to get people talking about appreciation. So we hope today's webinar has helped you as you think about creating a culture of appreciation or identifying traits that people in your workplace might appreciate being recognized or appreciated in. But as I just said, just thinking about appreciation and all the benefits that it will bring to the workplace is such a good investment of your time and your energy.
Likewise, I've enjoyed sharing with you all today, but I hope that you will consider this not only with your colleagues, but also the volunteers that you work with throughout your state, and offering them not just appreciation during National Volunteer Appreciation Week or during the month of April, but thinking of ways that you can spread that appreciation throughout the year.
That's right. We hope that you've enjoyed our time together today, and you'll see our contact information on the screen, our email addresses. I encourage you to reach out to us if you have any questions. Again, we're not the creators of this concept, but we can share just general tips that we have found to work or that type of thing, and we're happy to help. But we hope you've learned something, and we appreciate the opportunity to share more about creating a culture of appreciation in your workplace. And thank you for watching.